Welcome into the 65th episode and edition of Cleveland Sports Realm here. That is right, number 65 already. And we're going to do this one in honor of former Browns guard Eric Steinbach. And it all connects tonight because Eric Steinbach played under offensive line coach George Warhop, who will now be coming back to the Browns. So welcome on in as we have a breaking news edition here of the Cleveland Sports Realm as the Cleveland Browns have finally hired a coach. I'm Jerome. I'm here pretty much every week. I think I missed 2 or 3 episodes, and Kevin is out tonight due to business travel. So we have called into our bullpen of great guest hosts and rotational hosts. We have, of course, Rob, Nate, and then a couple other guests who have now repeated twice. And now our third guest to repeat twice, Mr. Robby Becker. Thanks for filling in tonight, and thanks for being here.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Just like my old days of playing high school basketball, I was at the end of the bench with my warm-ups on, and when Coach called my name, I was excited to rip him off and get up there and put up 4 rebounds, 2 points. So let's see what I can do.
All right. Well, thanks for being here because I know it was a last minute. But then again, probably exciting episode for you to be here as we have a lot going on. We have Cavs to talk about. We have Guardians as the franchise icon is locked down, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And then, of course, we started off where we usually do here on the Cleveland Sports Realm, and that is with the Browns because they're always making news, always in the headlines, no matter what time of the year it is. And that's where we start tonight. The Cleveland Browns have hired their 19th full-time coach in franchise history since 1946. That is Todd Monken. Quick bio blast on Monken. If you are unfamiliar, most of you probably are at this point, but for those of you who are not, we'll go there anyway. He comes to the Browns after being the Ravens offensive coordinator for the last 3 years, where he led Lamar Jackson to his second MVP. Before that, he was the offensive coordinator for the Georgia Bulldogs, where he won 2 national titles as offensive coordinator. And before that, he was none other than the Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator under Freddie Kitchens, where things did not go well. Monken did not have say over play calling and was telling other teams what a disaster it was on a week-to-week basis. That story resurfaced today from Zach Jackson of The Athletic. And then before that, he was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator. And before that is where he had his only head coaching experience. That was as the head coach of the Southern Miss Golden Eagles, I believe they're called. Don't quote me on that. Either way, he was there for 3 years. So that's where Monken's been the last 13 or so years. I will give my opinion, but Robby, since you're here as the guest tonight, take us through your version of this breaking news today when you saw the Adam Schefter tweet that the Browns had agreed to a deal in place with Todd Monken. What was your thoughts? Now what are your thoughts as you've had a little bit of time to chew on it as we sit here on Wednesday evening, January 28th in the 7 o'clock hour?
Yeah, I mean, the news has been kind of a whirlwind, not just for me, but I think for a lot of Browns fans. There's been so many reports, so many different people talking about things that have happened behind the scenes, and truthfully, we don't know what all happened behind the scenes. So I'll say at first, when I saw the news, I was not happy. We saw reports about all these coaches we were bringing in for interviews, coaches that I think a lot of people would have rather preferred. And then it breaks that we're bringing in, a 60-year-old, never been a head coach before. And
at the NFL.
At the NFL.
Right.
Yes, at the NFL. And, just not the guy a lot of people had as their top choice. So I was not very happy about it at first. And then I saw the report. Jim Schwartz was very upset. Now wants out. He said his goodbyes in Berea and doesn't want anything to do with the team anymore. So then I just get even more mad, and now I'm buying into this story that, Jimmy was trying to retain Schwartz, and Monken was the only one who would do that, so that's what he went with. There's reports he overrode Barry's decision, and, over time, stuff has started to come out that Jim Schwartz has made it known to the organization that, if he were to get passed up on, he'd want out. There's reports that, no, what we're hearing is not true. They didn't pass up on Udinski or, I'm sorry for pronouncing his name wrong, Shielhaus?
Yeah, Shielhaus.
Shielhaus. They didn't pass up on him. So I don't know what to believe right now. I'm a lot less upset than I was earlier seeing all these other reports come out. Now I just really want to know the truth. Like, what really happened with this coaching search? Because the Browns are really good at putting me in a whirlwind and answering none of my questions.
Oh, sure. Sure.
And like you touched on earlier, Monken was here 2019 telling other organizations about what a mess we were, what a disaster it was behind the scenes. So is this the best hire? I truthfully don't think so. I'm not as, upset about it as I was at first. I'm willing to give it a shot, but in the back of my head, I can't help but feel, and you may disagree, but this feels very one and done. There's been a lot of people saying, the Browns aren't competing for 2026. They're competing for 2027. We should set our expectations for 2027. And that starts to creep into my mind, and I think, okay, is this a one and done? Are we hiring Monken and then, okay, see ya, let's try to upgrade next year? I don't know. That's just kind of what I would like. I have a lot of questions and not a lot of answers.
So I think you make a lot of valid and fair points there. Here's where I am with it. So I think, when you look at this, Monken, I think what actually happened here was a lot of fans, including myself and probably you and many other Browns fans all across Northeast Ohio and the country, really kept seeing Todd Monken's name not going away. And we always probably thought, oh, he's just there as a safety net. He's there as protection. They're not really going to give Todd this job. He's just... That
was my thought.
Yeah, and that was my my thought too. But as time went on, and Mary Kay had said yesterday, Mary Kay Cabot from the Plain Dealer and Cleveland.com had said yesterday that don't rule out Todd Monken. He's very much still into this thing. I thought to myself, wow, okay. I mean, I got to believe what Mary Kay says here. I trust her Brown's opinion and her sources. And I thought to myself, well, okay, I still okay, I read it and I thought, okay, she's probably right. But at the same time, I'm like, no, this is Jim versus Nate, right? This is Shieldhouse versus Schwartz. And so I think from what I'm piecing together, and so much stuff's coming out, you're right, whether it's Diana Rossini, Schefter, Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, all these, folks who are super plugged in are saying Shieldhouse didn't want to keep Schwartz. Schwartz was going to try to get his own offensive guy, and he didn't want Shieldhouse's off. I think it's almost like the Browns liked all these guys, and they try to pair it all together. But that's impossible. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You're interviewing for head coach. There's a lot of egos involved, right? And you can't blame these guys. They're going for the head job, the head man position. So I can't blame Nate Shieldhouse for not wanting to keep Jim Schwartz. Monken supposedly was willing to keep Jim Schwartz. And then Jim Schwartz said, well, hell with that. You just took my job. And I know, from the Browns' point of view, it's like, yeah, sure, you could try to make all the pieces of the puzzle fit, but then it's easy sitting there on paper to say, yeah, the pieces of the puzzle fit, but you're dealing with real human lives and real human egos. And, guys, especially with Schwartz and Monken, guys who have coached in the NFL for years and older guys. Now, Shieldhouse, not as much, but I'm sure he has an ego too, based off the fact he's worked with McVay. So people believe in him a lot just because of the fact he's been in the same rooms. And if McVay hires you, that's viewed as a big time sign of respect. Now, after all this, I'm not totally pissed off they hired Todd Monken. And I never really was to begin with, because this is a guy who, wherever he's been, he's had quarterback success. He took Stetson Bennett. I know it was at the collegiate level. He made Stetson Bennett a very effective quarterback for those Georgia teams. This is a guy who got the best out of Lamar. He won him a second MVP. Yeah, they didn't have playoff success. And this is a guy who's also, ran a very innovative offense, and I think is done well with quarterbacks wherever he's been. Now, some people might be saying, wait, Jerome, hold on. He didn't do anything here with Baker in 2019. I put that more on Freddie Kitchens, because I think, in my opinion, and I don't know this for a fact, I think going back to 2019, I think Todd was forced upon Freddie. I don't think there was any real connection there. That wasn't Freddie's hire. That wasn't Freddie's choice. And so basically Freddie's way to respond to, hey, here's your offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, was, Okay, fine. He let Monken do all the grunt work all week long, and then when it came to game day, he made Todd virtually ineffective. So I take 2019 and throw it out the window because that was Freddie Kitchens' Browns, and there was a lot of problems. And Monken supposedly told other people how bad it was. And the fact that the day Freddie got fired, Monken literally was out of here in a heartbeat tells you how bad it was. The only thing that upsets me is if you wanted to keep Jim Schwartz, then you probably should have just given him the job. That was your only way of keeping him. Or somebody should have let Jim know all along in this process, hey, Jim, if you don't get the job, would you be willing to come back as DC? You can't just assume somebody's going to be willing to come back as defensive coordinator. Jim Schwartz is one of the top 3-4 coordinators in this league. Let's say that Jim Schwartz, and I guarantee it already, his agent's phone's been ringing off the hook today. His agent has hundreds of text messages. There's teams in this league with DC openings who are all going to interview Jim Schwartz. Oh, and by the way, there's teams who have DCs right now who would probably fire him to the chance to get Jim Schwartz. So I can't blame Jim Schwartz for not wanting to, after being a finalist, and from what we understand, what has now come out from Jeremy Fowler tonight is, again, we're here on Wednesday, January 28th. Monken, the news came out about 11 o'clock today. What we're now hearing is that Nate Scheelhaase was told no late last night. So this really came down to this morning, Monken or Schwartz. And what I think it ultimately came down to is whether this was Jimmy's decision, and we all know it probably was. Jimmy will not step out of the way as much as he says he is. And for a guy with a 70, 105-1 record as stewardship of this team, he probably should step out of the way a little bit more. But that's not going to happen, and none of us can make him do that. So what I think this came down to is Jimmy thought, hey, I have a lot of talent on defense. Offense is where I'm inefficient. I need an offensive mind. And I don't know if that's the right way to go about it. But listen, we know Todd Monken is a damn good coordinator. I think, at least. Some people may disagree. I think you agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, sure. Todd Monken's a damn good coordinator. We don't know how he's going to lead a group of men. And it's interesting because he is going to be 60 next week. So it's not like you're getting a younger guy. But I don't hate the fact that they didn't go super young, you know? So I know I just went on a very lengthy monologue, but I just
it's your show. I'm just subbing in.
Hey, but one thing led to another. But go ahead and give me some feedback off all the stuff that I just spewed out there for the last couple minutes.
I have a couple things. You know, when I look at the Monken hire, people are obviously pointing fingers at Jimmy Haslam, and I would say I absolutely agree. Look at Andrew Berry. Look at how he operates. Look at what he does, the people he hires, the people he signs. Todd Monken is not an Andrew Berry hire.
If Jimmy Haslam, sorry to cut you off, but if this was Andrew Berry, sole discretion, something tells me Nate Scheelhaase would have been introduced as the Browns coach today.
Yeah, that's where I was getting. Like this, This hire absolutely screams Jimmy. Jimmy loves being comfortable. He brought in a guy who was here before. We brought in Mike McDaniel for 2 interviews. Jimmy likes to be comfortable. He likes things to stay the same. And that's not what I wanted with this coaching hire. You know, we've done the same. We've done the same thing since 1999. We've gone in a circle, and we've gotten nowhere. And when things finally did turn around under Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, it still didn't lead anywhere. It blew up in the end. So in my opinion, we needed a big overhaul, something big, something drastic, and that was Udinski. That was Scheelhaase. And you may not agree with me, but that's just kind of where I was. Like, I'm tired of doing the same retreads over and over and over. Let's do something young. Let's do something crazy. Let's swing for the fences. I know we did that with Deshaun Watson, but, you know, that goes back to Jimmy. Like, I was going to make another point. You know, Jimmy, his long list of mistakes in this organization, his fumbles, it's endless. ESPN put out an article about it, for Pete's sake. You know? Jimmy Haslam cannot stop getting in his own way and making mistake after mistake. So to me, this hire absolutely screams Jimmy Haslam. But the one thing I will say is right now he's getting clowned online for trying to force Schwartz on the head coach and then it not working out. And now Schwartz wants out, so he's going to lose him anyway. I might give Jimmy the benefit of the doubt on that one. Like, that might not be as true as we've been led on to believe, because now there's reports saying Schwartz made it well known in the organization. Like, if I don't get this, I'm out. So maybe Jimmy didn't step on his own shoelaces on this one, but I still don't love the hire. I'm open to it. Like you said, Monken has a track record with, making good offenses tick, but, he's also been kind of a disappointment sometimes. We couldn't make Baker, OBJ, and Chubb work as well as it could have. He couldn't make Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, and Zay Flowers work as well as it could have. They missed the playoffs to the Steelers. Granted, it was on a missed kick, but, I'm open to the Todd Monken hire, but I really do wonder if this is a one and done, if this is kind of a mistake on the Lake Part 5,000.
That's great. I love that. Here's the other thing though, and as soon as you got Jim Schwartz involved in the, hey, you could interview for this job, and Jim Schwartz was very open. I remember his last press conference of the season. They said, hey, if the Browns do choose to move on from Kevin, would you want Kevin's job? And he didn't pull any. He said, yeah, I want to interview and I want it. I want it. And I think with the one thing that I think Jim has that I like over Monken is Jim's been a head coach in the NFL before, albeit it didn't go very well, 29-51. Hey, Jim made the playoffs twice.
He took over the 0-16 Lions, I believe, right? So
yeah.
You talk about being given a bad hand.
Right.
Maybe he does the same here.
But
given a bad hand.
Jim did make the playoffs twice. And, hey, that was a long time ago. This has been a decade. People grow and change. And, I think at this point, even if the Browns are going to try to mend the fences between themselves and Jim Schwartz, this is going to be difficult. And I think for the reason was Todd Monken only interviewed for the Browns. Like this cycle, nobody else had requested him or put an interview in for him. Jim did get another request. Jim did interview for another job. That was, ironically, the Baltimore Ravens job where Monken came from. So Jim did, go through the process with another team. So Jim probably really thought, hey, I am going to get a head coaching job. And everybody wants to be the head man. Who doesn't? So, look, if the Browns try to mend the fences and bring Jim back, good luck. But I think that's also could be a recipe for disaster because now the first time that Monken has a misstep in front of the team, Jim is going to say, hey, this should have been my team anyway. Is he going to overtake Monken? Is he going to make this messy? So look, now that you made your bed with Monken, you're going to lay in it. Guess what? I don't know that bringing back Jim at this point would be the best for all parties involved because, again, the first time Monken missteps in front of the team, who's going to take over? And are those defensive guys really going to listen to Monken anyway? Or are they just going to be, well, Jim's my guy. I wanted Jim. All those guys said they wanted Jim to be the coach. Delpit, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, they were all very open in the media, in the public eye, about how they wanted Jim to be the coach. So would they respect Monken? But then here's the thing, based upon, and that's, maybe they don't, and maybe it can work because I don't know. I don't think Myles Garrett had much respect for Stefanski towards the end. I mean, he had multiple opportunities to vouch for him, and he never did one time. And Myles Garrett's words go a long way, not just in Northeast Ohio, league-wide and all over league circles. So that's interesting too. The other thing that I wanted to point out about Monken is that we continuously, as stuff came out about him today, I wonder if this is where Jimmy wanted to, go with Monken, is because Kevin Stefanski was well known. Everybody who's ever played for him in Cleveland has said he's a hell of a player's coach. He's a player's coach. He defends the players. He was not known as much of a disciplinarian. Monken, on the other hand, all the stuff that's coming out about him, they said he's willing to have those hard conversations with players. He's willing to be a disciplinarian. And seeing how undisciplined this football team was over the course of the 2025 season, could that, Robby, have been a reason that Monken also was given the job? Because he's stern, he's difficult, he's willing to have those hard conversations, he's willing to criticize a player in film. All that, could that have been a contributing factor?
It's funny because on the way here, I was thinking about the last time I was on this podcast. It was a month ago. We had 2 games left of the season. Steelers,
which we ended up winning both those.
We all called it.
Yeah, I said they were going to go 1-1.
I said they would lose both.
Kevin said they were going to go 1-1.
Kevin said they would go 1-1. Yeah. So, at that point, you guys asked me, the rumblings were happening about Stefanski and Barry, like who's going to be out? Do we keep both? Blah, blah, this and that.
Sure.
At the time, I said, it's funny. You guys asked me, and I said it's funny because I feel as though I've done a 360. First of all, I want to point out wrong use of that. I should have said 180 because if I did 360, I'd be facing the same way. But I bring this up because maybe I did use the right term, because right now I am standing at a 360 facing the same way, because I said that at the start I had wanted Barry to be out, but after his really good draft class, and then seeing us commit too many men's in the huddle on third and one on our own,
against the Bears.
So I said, you know what? Kevin's been losing this locker room. This team's undisciplined. I think everybody's just out on Kevin. I think they're definitely going to retain Barry, move on Kevin. And then fast forward to now, I don't think I even have that same opinion. Like, I think looking at this Todd Monken hire, I'm sitting here going, man, I kind of wish we still had Kevin Stefanski. Granted, I don't think that's the end-all, be-all. I don't think Kevin Stefanski's the answer here, but this does loop back into what you said about Todd Monken, about being more of a disciplinarian. Stefanski wasn't that. So if there's anything for me to be a little excited about Todd Monken, is probably that. Does our team whip into shape? We're a 4-win team, 5-win team the past 2 years. Now, we were 3 wins.
3 and then 5. 3 and then
5. So maybe they need somebody to come in and, get the discipline back on the menu, boys. But
absolutely, and I agree with you. Now there's another element of this that we can discuss tonight, and it's a perfect night for Kevin not to be here, and that's the Shedeur Sanders element of it.
Oh boy,
because I'll
try to fill in for him.
Yeah, now you just start yelling and getting angry and just getting mad at Shedeur Sanders.
Wow.
Here's the other element of it, though. It's been well known that the Ravens were considering drafting Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders people didn't want to go there and be a backup for Lamar. Obviously, offensive coordinators tend to have input when teams draft quarterbacks. So, and this we don't really know yet, but the element of this is Monken a Shedeur guy? Was he in Baltimore pounding his fist on the table for Shedeur? If he is, that's not a bad thing, because maybe Monken said, other people who were interviewing for this job said, I don't want Shedeur Sanders. Maybe Monken said, hey, I'm willing to try it with Shedeur Sanders, which is what I think the Browns want.
I said on the last episode I was on, that I am not a Shedeur fan. I'm not a Shedeur hater. I'm a Shedeur question mark.
Yes.
And with those, I said we have 2 games left to find our franchise quarterback. We're at the point now where we can't be deciding who gives us the best chance to win. We got to find our quarterback. And after those last 2 games, Shedeur didn't show me that he's the franchise quarterback. I know a lot of people are saying, let's look into next year. Your point, Todd Monken, is he a Shedeur guy? Will he develop Shedeur? He's a well-known quarterback developer. And I every time I watch Shedeur, he doesn't register as a franchise quarterback to me. He makes his mistakes that he made in college.
Yes.
And he could make those mistakes in college because he was playing schools that were irrelevant a lot of the time.
Sure.
And then when he went against stiffer competition, it didn't really work out for him. And now you're in a league where every team is the stiffest competition imaginable, and he looks lost. I mean, he's had a few flashes here and there, but I'm not going to bang the drum for a quarterback who shows flashes here and there to be the franchise guy. And with that, I got to say, if Shedeur Sanders is the guy for the Cleveland Browns in their front office, they're already talking about him next year, and Todd Monken finds a way to develop him into a franchise quarterback, I'll build the Todd Monken statue myself. I'm hearing about how he's a quarterback developer. If he can do it, then by all means, if that's what they want to do, go for it. But I get the feeling that Shedeur is not the Browns guy. They're just kind of trying to force it in a way, and that's not what I want. I don't want to force anything here. If that's the guy they want, then go for it. I would just like to know what our plan is for quarterback next year, because in the draft, we're not in a position to take one anymore unless it's a late dart throw at like that LSU kid or Chambliss.
Yeah.
So
which Chambliss is, I don't know if that situation's resolved with his trying to get another year of eligibility. Yeah. I don't know about all that.
He's in a dispute that have never been disputes before in college football. So we'll wish him the best at that. But do we get a Mac Jones type? Do we get a Malik Willis type? Like, what are we going to do next year? I would really like to know. And I want to say this to see what you think. I have this sickening feeling in my gut that Deshaun Watson will be our quarterback next year. I'm not saying that's what I want to see, but his contract's coming up soon.
Yeah.
We need to make that trade worth it somehow. The front office is probably thinking, well, we can't cut him yet. He's healthy. We might as well. I mean, I believe he can be a June cut, but
it's still going to cost them a fortune. Yeah. It's a lot cheaper if they just leave him on the roster.
I get a sick feeling they're just going to say, you know what? We have no choice. Get out there. And if he tank commands, then great, better pick. And if it works, we go, oh, not so bad of a trade after all, is it?
Well, here's the thing with that. My guess would be, with no matter all the 10 different candidates they brought in here, I would imagine that every single candidate probably, and I would too if I was going to take this job, there's probably two things you ask about: Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. Because, obviously Shedeur ended up starting the last handful of games. Deshaun Watson's been the noose around this organization's neck since 2022. So if I'm taking this job, and obviously we're not going to know this publicly, I'm sure Todd Monken and Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry and whoever the hell else was on this search committee, assistant GMs and all that, Catherine Hickman, what have you. I'm sure there was lengthy conversations had about Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. If Monken, who the hell knows? Maybe Monken has so much confidence in himself as a quarterback developer. He said, hey, I could be the guy who could be, the miracle worker and get Deshaun Watson back to form, which God bless him if he is. I think that's an impossible task.
If he said that, Jimmy edged to the edge of his seat and slid him a contract right then and there if he said that.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that Jimmy himself has said it's a swing and a miss. And I've been very vocal on this podcast in many, many episodes of saying we'll never see Deshaun Watson again. But from Jimmy's point of view, that is a monumental investment of multiple hundreds of millions of dollars that you haven't got nothing but a giant pile of horse shit out of. Yeah. So if somebody can take your horse shit and at least turn it into something semi-decent, you're going to listen to what they have to say. And
sure.
And I don't know if Monken said that. Maybe Monken said, hey, Shedeur Sanders was a 5th-round pick. I banged the drum. I put my fist on the table in Baltimore. I was the one who wanted to take him before you guys. Then again, you're right. Jimmy's on the edge of his seat. Well, how the hell are you going to do that? I think, obviously, those were conversations that were had before Monken took this job. Now, obviously, we know the Jim Schwartz mess, that's resolved. Let's say this, though. Todd Monken's first reported hire, George Warhop, I like. Okay, I'll be honest with you. George Warhop has been an offensive line coach in this league since the early 90s. George Warhop served as Brown's offensive line coach through 3 different regimes. He was brought in by Mangini in 2009. Shermer held him over, and Chud held him over. And when he left here the last 13 years, between 2013 and 2026, he's had a job as an O-line coach in the league, all but one of them. 2 different times with Lovie Smith, once in Houston, once in Tampa, Baltimore, and I think there was one other place I'm forgetting. So Todd Monken bringing George Warhop with him, hey, I like that. George Warhop, let's not forget, was the one who developed Alex Mack into an all-pro center. George Warhop was here for 2 years into Joe Thomas's career when Joe really started taking that next step from really good to really elite. That's a good hire, well-respected hire. If Todd Monken, and obviously it's one hire, it's one position coach, but if Todd Monken can build a staff out like that, hey, I'm all for it. And maybe that's where they had concerns with Shieldhouse and Yudinsky. They're super young guys. They're not very connected in the league. Just like anywhere else you work, the NFL is all about who you know and in right place at right time. Maybe those guys aren't experienced enough to build out a staff and get well-respected assistants. Who knows?
Yeah, when I saw the Warhop news, immediately Joe Thomas was on CBS, just elated for this. So that gets me excited, obviously. If the greatest offensive tackle in NFL history is saying that we made a slam dunk hire, then I'm a little excited. Still not going to change my tune 100% on Monken. I'm still a little low on it, but if you can make huge, for a while now, we had very strong position coaches: Bill Callahan, Jim Schwartz at DC.
Good staff.
We had great.
Kevin did build a good staff here,
and over the past couple of years, it's not been that way. I mean, we had an offensive line coach rotating door after Bill Callahan because we can't figure it out.
Right.
And so Monken gives me hope that we can get back to a solid coaching staff because, like we said, the team is undisciplined. Maybe we just didn't have the right coaching staff in place. So I'm excited about that. But a lot of people were talking about how undesirable this Browns job was during the coaching carousel because 10 teams had an opening.
And to be honest with you, let me take my orange and brown colored glasses off. Really thinking about it, I'm going to put it in the bottom third. The only two that I think were probably worse were Raiders and Cardinals.
Notice the only two open jobs still.
Yes.
Cardinals and Raiders.
And the reason I say that is because, the Raiders, you're most likely getting Fernando Mendoza, and I know you're a huge fan, as is Kevin, and I think the kid could be good. Either way, I mean, this is Mark Davis, who's had 6 different, the late great Al Davis's son, who has had 6 coaches since 2021. So Jimmy was known for being trigger happy for a while, but I think Jimmy's lost his reputation as the most trigger happy owner. That probably belongs to Mark Davis. When you have 6 different guys in 5 years or whatever it is, that's ridiculous. And that's probably why people were hesitant. I saw Brian Dable elected to take the Titans OC job over continuing his candidacy with the Raiders. And now you throw in the Tom Brady wrinkle. Who the hell knows with that? And then Arizona, it's not nearly to the effect of the Deshaun Watson thing, but you have the Kyler Murray thing. He stinks. He's due a shitload of money. And so who wants that job?
Right. It definitely showed over time how the Browns job wasn't as desirable as we would have hoped.
No, but I think if we were looking at ourselves in the mirror and being honest, especially when like Buffalo and Baltimore come open, where you have MVP quarterbacks. I mean, we're sitting here talking about reclamating Deshaun Watson from 6 years ago, or a 5th rounder turning into a franchise quarterback. I mean, come on, we got to be realistic with ourselves.
It seemed like bad timing too. If we were one of 3-4 teams to have an open coaching candidacy, maybe it would have been better. But I'm looking at even guys that I didn't want. Mike McCarthy was in the mix, and you were high on him. I didn't want him at all. I'm sitting here going, I feel like I'd rather have Mike McCarthy over Todd Monken. Maybe that's an over-exaggeration, but I'm seeing all these other coaches, and I'm having that feeling left out, sitting at home with no one to, see that. I'm just like, I think it just shows that our job our head coaching candidacy may not have been as high as some of these other jobs.
No, and I'm not.
Maybe Jim Schwartz is the Raiders coach.
Who knows? I'm not sitting here acting like, I'm thrilled with Monken. Like, I'm just willing to give it a chance, and I honestly don't think it's as bad of a hire. My bottom line is, and I think we're in the same place on this, we're in agreement on, it is not as bad of a hire as some of you nimwits online are making it out to be. And that's just the truth. Like, some people, this is a disaster. Like, no, it very well may be a disaster. But to say it's a disaster right off rip, I think there could have been a lot more disastrous hires. And do I think we're in a point where in the NFL we've become a little ageist? I do, because everybody wanted Shieldhouse. Why? Because he's 35 years old? Is that the key cog? Because him and Sean McVay breathe the same air in the Rams facility? Like, I'm not saying that if they hired Nate Shieldhouse, I wouldn't be trying to bring up positives for him too, but I just think at a point where if Todd Monken had the same resume he does right now, but let's hypothetically say he was 15 years younger, I think there'd be generally a lot more excitement. And I'm on your point too. I'm not overjoyed about Monken. I'm just willing to give it a chance. And maybe that's just me being too loyal to the Browns. I've been known to be that way before.
No.
But I am willing to give it a chance, and I am curious to see what kind of staff he builds out. And where I do think that the one advantage he has over a Udinski or a Shieldhouse is he's been around the league for a lot longer. He has a chance to build out a staff of a lot more veteran assistant coaches than either of those guys would.
I want to ask you because, I had no idea who Grant Udinski or Shieldhouse even were. And then next thing you know, I'm upset that we didn't hire them. I genuinely thought, like I said earlier, I wanted a big swing. I wanted to really shake things up here. We really need to shake things up. Monken doesn't feel like a big shake up. So I want to pose to you, you've kind of touched on it, but how would you have felt realistically with a Udinski or a Shieldhouse hire? You mentioned to me earlier, teams are looking for their McVay. People are trying to catch lightning in a bottle again and get their McVay. And maybe I'm guilty of that, but that's where I kind of was. So, what was your take on those two when they were in the mix? And how'd you feel when they turned us down?
So, Shieldhouse, I actually liked a little bit better because he has been an offensive coordinator at Iowa State, and he's called plays. And he's had a little bit more experience, so I liked him. Udinski, I personally thought it was a little too early. I think he's probably due. I think he's due in a couple hires. He'll get whatever job he wants.
And that might have been what he thought too.
Yeah, I think 30 years old to me is a little young. I remember the Browns when they hired Kevin was 37, and that was like, whoa, that's really young. Now, and again, I think you're right. It goes back to that McVay effect because the Rams started a trend unlike we've ever seen before. When they hired Sean McVay at 31 years old, people were baffled. Now, 30-year-olds are regularly getting interviews. One thing on Udinski, though, I saw former Browns coach Mike Pettin was on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I don't know if you got a chance to see this.
I heard about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mike Pettin's a big Grant Udinski guy. Boy, was he really high on the guy.
I loved Mike Pettin back in the day,
so
that got me excited.
Yeah, Mike Pettin was big on Grant Udinski. Now, Mike Pettin is going to retire from coaching in general. He was the Vikings assistant head coach, and I believe because he was their D coordinator. He's been around. He's actually pretty much kept jobs in the league ever since the Browns and him separated 10 years ago. But Mike Pettin was super high on Udinski, and Mike Pettin said he thought he was ready right now. Mike Pettin obviously knows Grant Udinski a whole lot better than I do. I'm still going to hold to the opinion, though. I think 30 is really young, especially when you're coming to this. We can be honest about it. It's a hot mess. We just talked about it. Again, I go back to we're sitting here deliberating, can we fix Shedeur Sanders, or not fix Shedeur Sanders, because I think he's shown some flashes of life, like even you have come to admit. Can we take Shedeur to the next step, to the promised land, or can we fix Deshaun Watson? That's a big task, and where I think maybe
those are our only two options. I'm
yeah,
not feeling too good about the Cleveland Browns.
Sure, but I think they are probably the most realistic path. Where I think Udinski, that's a lot for a guy who's 30 years old to take on. There's a lot of vets on this team too. If this was a complete young team, maybe you're more prone to go with Udinski, but you have a lot of guys who have been in the league 10, 11, 12 years on this roster too, along with a lot of rookies. So you need probably a more veteran presence, and that's why I wasn't sold on Grant Udinski.
Okay.
To answer your question in a very long-winded 2-minute
No, you answered it perfectly.
way. So we'll see. I also like that, if Andrew Berry did get his way to hire Shieldhouse or Udinski, first-time head coach, he's probably able to really push them around and bully them into a few things. And I know my dad was real big on that. My dad had mentioned that a handful of times. And I think Todd Monken's a guy who's been around the league a lot. He's not going to get bulldozed by Andrew Berry by any means.
I'm curious how that's going to factor into the draft this year. With, obviously it's mostly Andrew Berry. I'm sorry, it's mostly Jimmy's decision.
Yeah.
But how much will Todd Monken have to play in the draft? He's going to bring a whole different perspective. When I was looking at mocks and, what we could possibly do at 6 and 24, I was kind of thinking about more so a Stefanski offense, but Todd Monken could throw a pick out there that's completely unprecedented in anyone's mind. So I'm curious if this changes anything with the Browns draft moving forward.
Well, I would assume so, because I think until the Browns, to be perfectly honest, the Browns couldn't really probably get too deep into the weeds on the draft until, Monken, not Monken necessarily, but until you had a head coach in place. Supposedly Stefanski worked hand in hand with Berry. That's what we were told, and that worked well for a while. And then fracture came. We'll see how well Monken and Barry work together. I'm curious to see what the structure is. Is Monken are going to report to the general manager, who's going to report to ownership? Are they both going to report separately to ownership? That's how it was last time, I believe, that Kevin and Andrew both separately reported to ownership. We'll see if Monken wanted the same structure. And, some of these questions, and so many we have, will get answered, I'm sure, at the Todd Monken introductory press conference, which would guess just hypothetically how these things go. We've been through a lot of them. Will probably take place next Monday or Tuesday, would be my guess. I don't know. That's a good question, and one that I think we got to wait to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing out of all this is the Jim Schwartz domino. What happens? Where does he go? Does he stay? I saw somebody bring up something today. One way you could get him to stay maybe is instead of you bump that salary a little bit, and he already was one of the highest paid coordinators in the league, and you give him the title of assistant head coach / D coordinator, but then does that undermine Monken? Like, the Browns are walking a slippery slope with that, and we're going to have to wait and see how that all plays out. I know that will be, for me at least, I'm sure for you as well, Robby, very interesting to track and follow that moving forward the next week or so.
It'll be an interesting next couple of days for sure.
Yeah, and see who else Todd brings in here. Who does he hold over from Kevin's staff? Kevin's already taken two of his guys. Tommy Reese, he's signed up to be Falcons offensive coordinator.
I hope he buys a flight ticket for Bubba Ventrone too, because if not, I will.
Well, I saw today that Bubba's already got interviews with the Steelers and Rams. Please take him.
Please. I have no interest in maintaining. I saw reports that Jimmy kind of wants to retain him. I don't know if that's true or not. But I don't want him.
No, I'm good. It looks like we have a kicker. Now we need some coverage units.
Yeah.
We need some coverage.
We can't give up 40-yard returns every single punt and kick and expect to win football games.
Right, absolutely. So I'm also curious to see the approach to free agency now. Does Monken try to bring some of the Baltimore offensive guys here? The Browns, Ethan Pochich is hurt. Luke Whippler hasn't shown me anything. They have a huge need at center. Tyler Lindenbaum,
I was going to ask you that,
is a free agent. So does he want to
Can
follow
we afford
along?
it?
Well, we're going to have to play some cap gymnastics like we do every year.
My favorite.
Yeah, well, I think Andrew Barry has become his favorite, whether he wants to admit or not, because otherwise we have no room.
I won't act like I understand cap stuff. I mean, they make announcements, and I just nod my head and go, sure, makes sense. And the Cavs are wearing multiple aprons, like you pointed out. So.
Well, if you think the NFL is complicated, when we get into the NBA one, people start talking about aprons and this level and that level and mid-level exceptions. The NBA one, again, I've said it before on the show. I'll say it again. You need a bachelor's degree to understand the NBA cap.
I got a bachelor's degree, as did you, and I barely got through my math classes and my accounting classes.
Same.
So when I hear this cap stuff and money stuff, I go, sounds good. Figure it out. Don't
Over
care.
the course of our friendship, one thing we've discovered about one another, neither of us are going to be mathematicians anytime in this lifetime or the next.
No.
So I think that's everything we've hit on the Browns. Let's cover some Cleveland Guardians. I thought overall some very exciting news. To me, when I look at this franchise, I say there's a top 5 for me of like all-time players. And this guy, Jose Ramirez, is in it already. I saw a lot of people say building the statue now. He once again takes a discount on the let's say a discount in the former years, but they did compensate him probably, which going to end up being too much on the back years. And he signs a 7-year, $175 million deal with $70 million deferred money involved in that, or $70 million of it deferred for the future, rather, should be the way I say it. And what I do like about this is, hey, everybody criticizes the Dodgers. Hey, everybody can defer money. Good job, Guardians. Good job deferring some money. Hey, if the Dodgers are going to play that game, so can we. And, to me, look, we can talk about the lack of activity in the offseason. We'll save that down the road for future episodes when we get closer to baseball season. But let's celebrate this. I think this is great. I'm glad Jose is going to be here through what can probably presumptively be his retirement, because it will be 40 when this contract's up. And the Browns, good Lord, the Guardians, are going to pay him $25 million a year on the back end, which a lot of people might question and say, hey, do you want to do that? But I think if there's one guy who deserves $25 million on his back end, it's Jose, because of the club discount he took last time and then again this time. And again, this is a guy who is the face of your franchise and now has done this for you twice. I know a lot of people have said it online, and I'm not the first. I'm probably the 10 millionth to say it. Build the statue anytime, right? I mean, this guy's a stud. And to be honest with you, Robby, I know that he is 33 going into this year. I'm a big baseball guy. I geek out on some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. The bat speed's still the same as it always was. The production's still the same. The stolen base level has not gone down at all. In fact, has gone up the last couple of years. If there's any guy, and I'm not saying that Jose's not going to decline at some point. LeBron was quoted as saying, "Father Time gets everybody," and he's right. The only guy who's kind of defied that is Tom Brady, but even his last year at age 45, he started to slip a little bit. If there's one guy I believe who can push and still be productive into like maybe not all the way to 40, but the age 37, 38 portion of this deal, I would bet on Jose Ramirez 100 times out of 100. So I love this deal. I think the fans needed a morale boost, a PR boost that gives it to you. And it's just great to know that for the first time in our lifetime, we are going to see a Cleveland baseball player start and finish their career in Cleveland.
And to your point about his age, baseball is not like the NFL where, you have players who play up until their late 30s, 40s who are still, perfectly capable. But then I turn on an NFL game and a 26-year-old trots out there and they go, "Oh, you got to give props to this elderly old man for still taking snaps." And I just look at myself and go, "What?" So, baseball definitely not like that. It's very, very good news to have Jose locked up this long. I think he'll still very much be productive. He's shown no signs of slowing down.
No.
And you got to look at that interview he did where he said, "I love everything about Cleveland and they've never booed me." That's the part that stuck out to me the most.
Yeah.
Players see that when Aaron Judge is a MLB
the best player
MVP,
outside of Shohei Ohtani.
When he wins the MVP of the league, but because he didn't crank a homer at his every at-bat that one game, the Yankees fans boo him. Players see that. They know. Aaron Judge probably despises that. So, Jose just getting up there here and saying, money is not everything.
Right.
I have enough money. This is where I want to be. And, you look at players who have taken huge contracts with teams that have no shot at winning, and then they're very frustrated that they're not winning. And then you think some players just have different mindsets. And Jose says, for me, I want my family to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable, and I want to play in the city that gave me everything. And you got to respect that.
Absolutely. And I also think, to your point, different athletes have different motivations. That's a very fair point from you. What I also think this comes down to, too, though, is, like you said, Jose is very comfortable here, and there's no doubt about it. And I think you're right when he did that interview and said at the end when we came back for that division title last year, he said, "This is my house. Cleveland is my home." I also think that he likes, look, he's not a big media facing guy. He just likes to go out there and let his actions speak for his words. If you play for the Dodgers or the Yankees, you can't do that. You can't get away with not facing the media. Like Aaron Judge is facing questions every blessed night. And that's what you get being the pinstripe captain versus if you're the Guardians' best player, and I know he technically doesn't wear the C, but for all intensive purposes, we both know he's the captain of this roster.
Sure.
And, I think he, tough nights, he can get away with not facing the media. And that is beneficial to him too. And I think he's not that big market guy. And, you pointed out, money's not everything to him. I think, in my humble opinion, in our lifetime, we'll never see an athlete like this again. Ever. Because I think money has only become more of a factor over the years. Gone are the days where in the offseason, these guys were carpenters and plumbers. I'm talking back in the 40s,
right.
50s. But in 2026, to see an athlete who has now twice taken under market value deals because his motivations are different. God bless him. I applaud him. I thank him because I get to see him play every night on my television screen and a lot of times at the ballpark. A lot of times courtesy of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think that is so cool. It's phenomenal. And honestly, I think he's got to be he's got to be the king of Cleveland. I mean, for what he's done twice and his motivations. And again, I don't know if we'll ever see in our lifetime again an athlete do what he's done. And I don't believe it's going to happen.
Yeah, I would agree.
So awesome news. We'll talk more Guardians down the road. We don't have too much more time to get into that tonight because I think it is finally time and fair to them that we wrap up this episode by talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. I saw a statistic after the win over Orlando the other night. They are now 11-4 since December 29th. Donovan Mitchell's having a phenomenal year. Evan Mobley is out with a calf strain for 1 to 3 weeks now. But the Cavs are up to 28-20, and they are currently playing the Lakers right now on this podcast, which we have to touch on something with that in a second here. But as we sit here right now, the Cavs 28-20, again 11-4. I don't think that we're ever, as fans, going to believe in this Cleveland Cavalier team until we see them do something in the playoffs. But it was really bleak for a while. Have the Cavs given you a couple, I'm not going to say an exuberating amount, but a couple more ounces of confidence with what they've done, let's just say since the new year?
Yeah. I'll say, for me personally, after the absolute failure of a season that last year was, I mean, I know you and Kevin have also called it that. Last year and the year before were just failures. A lot of people said and Eastern Conference Finals or bust at the least. So I came into this season very frustrated with the Cavs. I was in the same boat where I was not happy with another second round exit. I didn't want to do the whole, they ran into a good team, injuries, I was extremely frustrated with the Cavs to start this year. So I didn't watch them to start. I'll be honest. Like, to start the season, I chose not to. Plus, it's so hard to watch the NBA these days, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. So I didn't watch too much Cavs to start the year, and then they started bad again. I kind of threw up my hands and said, they lost me here. Like, this is just another lost season. Right now, they've won, they're 11-4 since December 29th, so there's a lot to look forward to. I did tune in the other day because now that they're on an upswing, I wanted to catch the game, and I like what I see. The offense is clicking a bit. They are starting to figure things out. Donovan Mitchell, I saw a clip of him, yelling at Jared Allen, like physically yelling at him to knock a guy over, be more physical.
You talk about someone another guy who's really stepped up as a leader in this city and embraced the city. That's another guy. That's a different conversation for a different day, but he's another guy who should probably wear a C on his chest. I don't know if they do that in the NBA, but whatever.
Yeah, so I've been liking what I've seen from the Cavs. I caught the game the other day, so the biggest thing I think is going to be what I talked about earlier with the Browns was, in need of a big shakeup. I feel like the Cavs need a shakeup. Maybe not a huge shakeup, but they definitely need a shakeup. This roster that Kobe Altman is absolutely obsessed with is not going to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
That might be a hot take, but this roster's not going to do it. You need to shake it up.
So I'll be honest, I was out on the Cavs for a little while too, and I wasn't watching much. Same. I just was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to watch,
They needed to give us a reason to, and they have.
And so I did, on Christmas Day, I watched majority of the Christmas Day game, and I watched right before my own eyes that giant lead dissipate at MSG at the Garden, and I said, they're screwed. And then I watched, them beat Philadelphia, who's been way better than I anticipated this year. And I watched we were recording on Wednesday, so I didn't, a lot of times we record this podcast. The Cavs seem to play a ton of Wednesday games. As they're playing right now, they're going back and forth with the Lakers. They're up by 1 at the very second of this. I watched a Friday night game against the 76ers in which Jalen Tyson went off, and that's where I have hope. The way Jalen Tyson's played, and what a draft pick that's turned out to be. Now, obviously, there's nothing speculative of it from any insider. Giannis wants out. Boy, what a day for Jimmy Haslam. Very eventful day for the Haslam Sports Group. Giannis officially wants out. He put it out there, his agent, to Shams today. So do the Cavs have the ability to do that? They're already maxed out. The only way I could see them doing that is if you did like a straight up Mobley for Giannis, which, yes, you're giving up years of your future, but we know how it is when LeBron years. If you really feel like you have a title team, push your poker chips towards the center of the table, go in. I don't know how much of a difference Giannis would make, but hell, for the rest of this year, maybe next year, it'd be worth it to try it. I don't think it's feasible. And again, neither of us understand the NBA cap and understand if it can actually be done. But just from a fan point of view, yeah, hell, I'm sitting here tonight, and I've been a big Mobley guy on this podcast. I'm sitting here tonight telling you I would give up Evan Mobley for Giannis if that can get you over the top. I don't know, though.
I was going to ask you, if a Giannis trade were to be possible, what would it have to be? But you answered it before I could even say it.
Yeah, sorry, I stole your thunder.
No, it's okay. It's interesting because I also got texted today by a friend who said, Giannis would like a trade. What would the Cavs realistically have to give up? And I really don't know. I don't know what the Bucks need. I don't know what the apron situation entails for trades. Someone said we can't even do a trade unless a certain threshold is met. So, if it's Mobley for Giannis straight up, I think I would do that too. I say this, but you specifically have said this, that, Mobley needs to take the next step. He has such a high ceiling. You've said, I think Mobley's ceiling is unbelievably high. He's got to take the next step. And
we just haven't seen it happen this year at all.
And I don't know if his ceiling's as high as you've, led on to believe back in the day.
Me and a lot of other folks were exaggerating it because I agree with you.
Mobley is great. I don't want to downplay him. He is a very great player, but you look at him and you look at players like Wemby and you go, they're the same size, same build, but Wemby just plays the position so much better. Granted, Mobley sometimes plays some power forward.
The bottom line is we've been waiting for. We were told this year was going to be a big step. I pointed this out. Kevin and I, through friend of the show, Matt Pastorell, who's also been a guest on this program, he took us to the Cavs season ticket holder event where Kenny Atkinson stood up there at Public Hall and Kobe Altman and said the best player on this basketball team will be Evan Mobley this year. He will be our MVP. He will get league MVP votes. He will lead us. And if you're going to say that to the fans, you're the guys who are seeing this every day. I'm not at the Cleveland Clinic court seeing what's going on over there in Independence. I don't know, but if my general manager and my head coach are telling me this is going to happen, and then I see what I've seen this year, yeah, I'm going to be a little pissed off and disappointed. Sorry, Cavs. You sold us a bill of goods that just ain't happening. And maybe they really believed it. I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's hard not to believe in Mobley. He did get the Defensive Player of the Year. He does have great potential, but the way I see him playing now, it almost feels like this might be the ceiling. Like, he is a great player, but he just doesn't show aggression. He doesn't show that he's going to take that next big step. Would I trade Mobley straight for Giannis? I probably would, because you know what? Giannis has won a title before because he is aggressive. Like, Giannis doesn't seem like it, but he will dunk over anybody. He will take what he needs to do. He'll take the game into his own hands.
He's a better defender, I think, than he gets credit for.
He's a good defender. So, yes, are we missing out on a Evan Mobley next 5 years? It could be a winning scratch ticket every next 5 years. I'm taking that risk because Giannis, it's already been a winning lottery ticket. If it guarantees a title, I take that. I'll take one guaranteed title over, maybe we can win 5 in a row with Evan Mobley, because I haven't seen that out of Evan Mobley. And so the Cavs, they got to do something at this trade deadline. I don't know if they will.
I don't know if they can.
Kobe Altman, he seems obsessed with this roster from top to bottom. Like, in his mind, this is the greatest roster assembled in NBA history.
Right. I agree with you. He is probably too high and has been on this core four for years, and it just hasn't amounted to what we thought it would. The other thing that I'll criticize Kobe Altman for, too, is, and I believed it, too, I thought the Lonzo Ball addition was going to be fantastic. It has been nothing short of an unmitigated disaster.
Yeah.
He can't shoot. He turns the ball over at a ridiculous rate. It just hasn't worked out well.
I take it back. I did actually watch another game. The the game against our huge rival, the Charlotte Hornets. I tuned in for.
Yeah, no, I've like
He didn't play.
Lonzo Ball's been a DM. Lonzo Ball's been a DMP, and
It was supposed to be this big addition in the offseason, and he physically can't play against the Hornets.
No, I can't blame Kenny the way he's played from what I've seen, and like I've really been trying to tune in more in January, and I have been, and they've made it worth it most nights. Like, cause look, they beat the Sixers back to back, then you get all confident. Then on MLK Day they get thrashed by Oklahoma City, but then again these last couple games. You took care of business in the home and home against Orlando Saturday and Monday. So, like, things are getting better. Things are on the upswing. So, I think it's just you take it in stride. And, hey, if they have a crappy regular season but they do well in the playoffs, that's okay with me. Last year they had a damn near historic regular season, and they ended up crapping out in the playoffs. So, like, Donovan Mitchell said it the other day. You all criticized us when we didn't do well. He's like, now you're criticizing us for not being good in the regular season this year. I know he took a lot of crap and flack for that comment, but he's right. If you guys finish, let's just say hypothetically you finish 41-41, but you get the 7 seed or something like that, I don't care. Like, I care about the Cavs are at a point where, like, look, the Browns are in the embryonic stages. I mean, they won 5 games last year. Like, yeah, they're at a point where, yeah, just get into the playoffs. Let's say hypothetically. Big wish. It's probably not going to happen. Todd Monken leads the Browns to the playoffs. We're going ballistic. Kenny Atkinson leads the Cavs to the playoffs. Not a single person's even giving you a golf clap. This is what's expected.
Right.
You hired JB Bickerstaff or hired Kenny Atkinson because you told us JB Bickerstaff couldn't get you over the hump. This Kenny Atkinson has to go to a finals. Maybe not win, but he has to go to one. And yes, he probably should win one because they fired JB Bickerstaff, who consistently got to the second round. Kenny got you to the same place. There was some talk of Kenny being on the hot seat not too long ago. I would believe that the Cavs felt the pressure and they have responded. I'm not asking them to be great the rest of the regular season, but can you just with the Cavs get me to April? We'll see what happens.
When they had that amazing regular season last year, I was not jumping out of my seat just yet because the playoffs.
Oh, I was. And I'll admit I was wrong. I was dead wrong. I was jumping. I was thinking title.
Every sport, well, as you should. Every sport, the team that wins is the team that gets hot at the right time.
Sure.
The Cavs got hot super early, and they started to fizzle. Before they
started 15-0 last
They limped
season.
into the playoffs, if you remember.
Yeah.
They didn't get into the playoffs on a hot streak. They had an absolute dud to end this regular season. So the team that wins the championship in every sport is almost always the team that puts it together. There's luck involved, and they get hot at the right time. And the Cavs were not hot at all to end the year. They were so high on their own supply about how good the regular season was, and the luck didn't go their way. I don't want to sit here and say luck has everything to do with it, but it does. They got unlucky with injuries.
Yep.
Super Bowls teams have gotten unlucky with injuries. Baseball teams have gotten unlucky.
Sure.
Luck is a part of it, and the Cavs had just everything go against them. So, this year they didn't start hot, and you know what? If they end hot, I'll get excited.
Yep.
Because right now they look good. The season's, we're looking at the horizon of it.
So right now they're playing their 49th game of 82. So they're a decent chunk of the way, but there's still a good chunk of the way to go. So we'll see.
If they end hot, I'll get a little more excited than I did last year at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, this January run for both of us, quite honestly, it appears it's gotten us reinvested. All right, one last thing we have to hit on, and quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Dave McMenamin, who covered the Cavs when they were here, when LeBron was here. When LeBron went to the Lakers, he moved there, and he's been a Lakers insider and beat reporter, just like he was for the Cavs when LeBron was here. Wrote an article in a column on ESPN.com about how LeBron would be open to a return, and supposedly the Cavs would be open to that as well. Would you quickly be open to this or not?
I would. I'm not moving the earth, the moon, and the stars for LeBron James, for 40-year-old LeBron James, but I think it'd be foolish to say we shouldn't be open to it. I mean, even though he is the age that he is, he still can play the game of basketball at an extremely high level.
Absolutely.
And small forward is our biggest gaping hole the Cavs have had for years. Sorry, Dean Wade. But LeBron James fills that absolutely flawlessly. You know, will he be day-to-day a lot because of his age? Sure, but that's where Dean Wade is a perfect backup role. Not a starter, in my opinion. But
that's where I do think Tyson's come in, though, this year.
I love Jalen Tyson.
Yeah.
I love the pick. I'm happy to see him get a Rising Star
he
nomination.
deserves it, man.
Absolutely. He's the definition of a rising star. I think he's going to be great. Maybe we don't need LeBron, but I would be open for it, but we cannot gut the team for it.
I agree with you.
I think this offseason is going to be very interesting because obviously LeBron is sick of the Lakers. The Lakers are sick of him.
LeBron wears out his welcome everywhere. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, no matter where he goes, it is just so much having him.
Sure.
And the risk and reward is, he can get you to the title, but I don't know if he can do that anymore. I think there would be some parameters would have to be on it. LeBron would have to come here knowing Donovan Mitchell is A1, choice 1. You are number 2, sir. Mm-hmm. You are not 1. And can LeBron's ego take that hit? That's a question we don't know. I mean, it's kind of had to right now because Luka's number 1, but the problem is neither of them are on the court ever together because neither of them can stay healthy. But I agree with you. I would do it at the right cost. If LeBron James would get a buyout from the Lakers and take like a veteran's minimum, sure.
He wouldn't do that.
I don't think he would.
Not even for a money thing. I think LeBron has too much hubris to let it be known that he's on a vet minimum contract.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And that's crazy to say, but I feel like he wouldn't want that out there that he's on.
No, because it
sounds dirty.
He makes so much more money. Like his NBA salary is just a small portion of the money he makes. He's got his hands in so many different cookie jars and has made a fortune. I agree with you. I would do it at the right cost. I wouldn't destroy the team for it by any means. And I hope the Cavs are doing that too. When they say they're open to it, hopefully that means they're thinking like us. Hey, maybe we'll do it if the right thing comes in place. But I'm not trading you Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and picks and this and that. Like, no, that can't be it. LeBron, as you pointed out, is aging, to put it politely, star. But he still is a damn good ball player. So
Dan Gilbert's thinking, I got to rush to retire Kevin Love's number at the end of the year and invite LeBron and his boys.
Yeah.
Just like he did for Z.
That's right. So that'll do it for this week's episode of Cleveland Sports Realm. Robby, thank you so much for filling in tonight and doing it admirably, I might say.
Thank you.
Very nice job out of you. Derek, great job on the other side of the glass on the producer's role. You can follow us on social media at CLE Sports Realm. We'll post stuff out there for you guys. And then also, on the comments, let us know what you think of the Todd Monken hire, the Jose Ramirez extension. How are you feeling about the Cavs and their little, I guess we'll say, little warm spell? I wouldn't say they're hot, little warm spell. They're heating up a little bit. And then obviously this podcast is available on YouTube to watch, on Spotify via audio and video, then of course on Apple Podcasts. Thanks a lot for listening to the 65th edition of Cleveland Sports Realm. We'll see you next week for the 66th. Have a great night, everybody, and go Cavs, go Guards, and go Browns.
Back to you, Kevin.